Hello everyone, I am Mahesh and today I'm going to brief you more about all the tips that is regarding to our mobile automation. Okay, now let me make the screen bigger so that you can see. Okay, so the people who don't know about me. So I'll explain about myself first. I'll just brief about myself that I'm Mahesh and I'm a senior test automation architect with 14 plus years of experience in the field of test automation. I worked on web, mobile, desktop, and performance and load testing. I worked on the R&D department for 5 years. Also, I have a different skills like I have worked on Java, C Sharp, Python, Ruby, R language, along with Selenium, BDD, REST assured, mobile automation, and load and performance testing. Also, from my social reach, I help near about 2200 people to learn the test automation. Around out of that 1100 people are getting a very good opportunity in the renowned organization where near about 200 people they've started helping others too. Now if you can see, I have a patent on one of the patent that is related to the IoT and another one in the test automation. So, what today I'm going to tell you is a very important topic, that is tips for effective mobile automation testing. And I will explain you how do we start that. I will explain you what are the basic things that we need to take care of and everything. So if you can think like quality assurance is just critical to delivering your brilliant customer experiences, but with the various types of testing and the methods, testing a mobile application for release can be overwhelming. Now if you can think, we work currently in the agile environment where we do have a continuous integrations too. So if you know that according to the Atlassian survey, there are near about 80 to 90% of DevOps teams today they used agile methods, but agile development has very impact on the quality insurance. Okay, so quality assurance. So when we talked like how this agile change quality assurance, so there are so many things like dev test ops, then we do have the Jenkins, and all those are involved in nowadays within your quality assurance. Now to requiring your QA teams to test faster and more often. So with an average sprint lasting your 10 days, this means mobile app testing and preparation occurs throughout the entire development life cycle because it starts from your beginning till the end. And QA teams usually need to write the test cases while dev teams are developing so that testing can happen in the short window at the end of the sprint. And another critical trend impacting application testing, I can talked about the mobile application testing, is a continuous integration and continuous delivery, that is CI and CD. Now, compared to the agile, CI is more of an interactive approach in which code is developed in small and continuous updates and releases. Rather than testing an entire mobile application in the sprint, QA teams can test portions of a feature or maybe two out of the five features done in that sprint. And as code is produced in a smaller segments, it is tested, and end-to-end testing usually occurs prior to the release at the end of the sprint. So what happens most of the time, you just finish your end-to-end testing like your API till the any of your web till your mobile app. All those end-to-end validations are most of the time nowadays happening in the your integration testing. Now, these trends require mobile application testing to happen faster than ever before and placing a greater need to speed up your efficiency and QA teams. So to keep on track, it's critical to maintain a strategic mobile application testing processes. Now, what are the 5 tips that I am going to explain you is, first, how do we start? So we need to ask the question to ourselves, some of the questions to ourselves. What is my test scope and how do I manage my coverage? So first question to ourselves is, what is my test scope and how do I manage my coverage. So this is my first step, okay? And specifically the feature and functionality of the app, we need to determine what we need to test always. Now, previously, QA teams often created a test strategy, big picture document which outline the goals and methods of that testing processes. But in Agile framework, however, these things are working software or a comprehensive documentation. Okay, so thus your testing strategy may not be a formally documented nowadays, but it is still critical to clarify. How do you clarify to the people? That is very important now. So the most important step of your mobile app testing strategy is defining what features and functional requirements you are testing, and this will determine the types of your mobile app testing. So whether it's functional testing required, usability, compatibility, performance, security, or any other type of testing is required. That is what it is defined with this first point, okay, or first tip. So likely your testing scope will also include a mix of functional and usability testing. Some of the most common functional feature to test are your sign up, your login experiences. I already mentioned in my security session, in my last session, that what are the things that we can manage in mobile app securities too. So you can watch that video as well. Now performance across your different connections and carriers, and checking layout and the different screen sizes, and you can check the factors to consider. How do we check our mobile app in the different orientation? That is also one of your tests in the scope. These are the things that you need to always identify. Now while every mobile application has some basic functional testing needs, now you need to consider the specifications of your app, like about your coverage. Now you can ask some of the questions to yourself. Does this app interact with the other apps? Is this app native or mobile web or hybrid? What is the type of your mobile app? And is this app testing include only front end, back end testing as well? Or we need, when I said back end, definitely it's nothing but my integration, that is my end to end scenarios. And is it compatible with the multiple networks? That is also you need to ask to yourself while defining the test coverage always on your mobile app. Those are the things that is required for your automation processes too. Then you need to identify the testing locations. When I say testing locations, you need to identify for apps with the global user base. One notable type of testing is your localization testing, which test your app in the variety of locations and languages. This goes beyond just using the basic translation tool and ensures your app avoids the common languages or cultural mishaps. Now, typically, when we talked about localization testing, it is done in the partnership with your company or with some global network or some of the testers or the testers from those local areas. Those are the things that is happening some of the times about the localization. So localization is very important, and this is how my first tips where you can identify the things to do or proceed further. Also, you can decide your device coverage too. Now, while doing the device coverage, you also need to decide which and how many target devices to test on. And most of the time, what happens, a smaller QA teams may take more incremental approach and testing an app on the handful of devices. When selecting these, you need to ask again some questions to yourself on the coverage. Like what operating system does your system or your application support? And what is the version or earliest version of your operating system that is supported to your mobile app? And what are the most popular mobile devices uh, are you targeting for your target audience? These are the questions you need to ask on this first tip. Now I have the second point, that where to follow this mobile testing. When I said where to follow this mobile testing, that that uh, that answers some of the questions here. Like, do you think I need to do this testing on the emulators or the simulators? Okay, both are the things are different, emulators and simulators. There are some differences between both of these two. Let me explain that later on, but currently what we can say, we are going to test something on the emulator. Okay, now are this is requirement for my system that I am going to test only on emulator. So let me go back and I can show you something. Let's see. Okay, so I have, okay, so I already opened one application. Okay, one app. So let's say this is one of my standard chartered application. Okay, this is the standard chart app, and what I need to do is I need to find out what exactly this standard chart app is looking into a different orientation. I need to find out that. So when I need to find out that which other things are supported by these things, I can simply press here F12. I can click here on the devices, on my toggle devices. I can simply select the devices. I can select any devices from here. Let's say I select iPhone X. I said I'm going to test on iPhone X. This is my application, a web application. I'm going to test on the simulator, or these are my emulators, what you can say at this stage. Let's say I'm making it bigger, or I can say the 100% so that you can see it better way. And then you can enter something, your username, your password, and your captcha and all other things. So these are the way by which people are started some of mobile testing on their end, due to there is a lack of devices. Okay, and when I talked about my second tips, that we need to identify the real devices, or we need to find out your mobile testing by the way. So you need to refer that your all of your tests are run on emulator, and your app will fail in real world scenarios. So most of the time what happened, people are thinking I am checking everything on the emulator and that is working. But when that application goes directly on the real world, that means on any of the real devices, that time all your real mobile devices are failed. So that's why what real mobile devices let you test many key device capabilities like GPS, carrier, then connectivity issues, battery drain, then your call in between, then SMS interruption, your camera functionality, and many more. So emulator tests the app to work on all devices, but don't take into consideration that each device unique configuration. So for example, if there is an issue that affects only on your Pixel devices, you are not likely to find it using emulator. So if I can see here on iPhone X, but if you wanted to check same on my real device on my iPhone, then maybe I'm not getting such type of issues on emulator, but that is definitely I can get it on my real devices. So with number of devices available, it can be overwhelming to test your app on every device and OS combination, but that is not possible considering the number of combination you'd need to test for. So the best approach to identify the most used devices among your user base and test on them. If your testing covers 80% of devices, you can be fairly confident of your test results, and your devices in-house. Maintaining this device lab in-house is expensive and inefficient and distracts you from the tests you need to run. Instead of instead of renting real mobile devices in the cloud by the minute is better alternative. That's why nowadays device clouds, like other the different organization, they are providing their devices on cloud, like Browser Stack and Sauce Labs and some other projects. So you have the wide range of phones and stay updated to the newest device regularly. So this is what I can say is my second tips when you need to follow your test automation. Now, how to plan your mobile app test in either manual or automation. So that is what you are first planning. So once you know your testing scope and coverage, the next step is your device management or emulator, and then your next important area that comes to determine how to test. In other words, you need to break the strategy down into the plan of action and detailing who, what, and will execute your test and on what timeline. An essential component of this step is preparing your test suits. So writing test cases or test scripts for automation testing is very important over here. But the first question comes, do you need to go with manual or do you need to go with automation? So today many QA teams like integrated automated and manual testing, as each has different pros and cons, but generally automated testing is useful to verify repeated tasks and the solid code, like I can say verifying your throughput of an API and the scale you're testing, or your application or your API. That those are all the things that you can do using automation. The drawback is that writing and updating your test scripts to verify an app standard features can be time consuming, but you need to follow some of the processes. I already covered some of the automation processes in my previous video. I would request each one of you to please walk through with those videos so that you can get that better idea on that. Now, furthermore, your automated scripts cannot substitute in the while testing. Sure, the UI may function great in the lab, but does it work while user is walking down a busy street and holding your device in one hand? Then he can shake that device, then he can do some operations on the devices. All those things we're using automation we cannot do. Those are your real life or real world tests that you need to do manually always. So these are all your brilliant customer experience in the real world that you need to set for the 5-star app rating. Okay. So those are some of the drawbacks that using automation testing you cannot achieve, that you cannot go, you cannot run you holding your mobile and you, let's say you are testing your Ghana app, okay, ghana.com, or you can testing your YouTube and you're listening to the music and you're running or you're doing some exercise, let's say. But if the same application you wanted to test using automation, how do you test it? So that is not possible. That's why this type of things that you need to test using your application is very important. You can write your test cases. So that is what I, for the first point from this, that is identify the way. Then you can write your test cases or verifications. When I say verification, so verification is nothing but your automation verification. If you can see my video from the framework, you can identify how do we write the verification and everything. You just have a look at my previous video on the verification, automation verification. Okay. Now, when I say write test cases and verification, you need to write your all manual test cases. Also on the verification side, you need to write your automated test scripts too. And this can be done in-house, or you can hire some of your outsource this to the some of the QA team members or outside of the organization, and just looking at to accelerate your QA, you can say the coverage. Okay, and that will again includes your test case designs too. Then you need to identify your test approach. If you have limited testing needs and you can execute test cases or automated scripts in house with your own test engineers, but this has some drawbacks. So first, scaling is difficult and software testing is usually needed very quickly and for short period. Covering this demand is challenging. Sometimes you don't have those skill sets, so what people are doing, they just identify some of the another third party vendor and they just started outsourcing those things. But if you have those skill set, you just identify your approach, you just communicate this approach within your organization with your team members, with your QA team, and then start elaborating those things. So when you select the testers, it is advantageous to use testers who are similar to your users. Always. So your test approach, you need to identify like the users. You need to select your testers like the user. Okay. These are all the things that you need to identify when I said you need to, how do you plan your mobile app test? Then you can automate your mobile testings too. When I said now I jump on another of this how to plan, so I said I wanted to plan like automate my mobile automation or my mobile app. So automated testing is even more essential with mobile apps than traditional apps. With automation, you can run tests in parallel across numerous simulators and the real devices. Also, I show you some of the simulator, the web simulators too. And this speed ups your test results and helps bring your apps to market faster. Plus, you can save configurations before running tests and reuse them whenever needed when shared across the teams, and this can save a lot of your time. Not every test should be automated. Some tests are best performed manually. Like I already said, you wanted to walk in the market and you wanted to see how your application behaves. You wanted to do these things. How do you test in using automation? That is not possible. So especially if you are running some rarely required a lot of setup, such type of tests you just need to do it manually. Now test automation with mobile requires the right set of tools also. You need to identify which tool you want to set up for your mobile automation. So what I'm going to do is I'll going to explain you in my next session about how do we start automation, mobile automation testing from the scratch. Okay, so I'll show you how do you start with Android and iOS automation along with any of the mobile app. I'll take one of the app and then I can show you how to automate that. Now, my fourth point that comes into the picture is how do we select the most appropriate devices? It is one of the toughest dilemmas in the today's market to identify the right device and OS to mix on which your team should develop and also test their mobile app against. Reason behind this is your user experience. Again, your user coverage. Again, your test user or your end user coverage. So when building your prioritized list of mobile devices, consider your right criteria. There are certain criteria which we need to think of. So the criteria like you need to target market and competition. So you need to target the market and competition, or you need to target your end users too. So how when I say target market, so you need let me explain in this way, like on which devices and OS version your end user actually use the most. Based on the organizational analytic data, you need to set up some of the analytic data. You need to coordinate with some of the third party if you want those analytics, everything, or you need to do some of your own AI or BI analytics, and you need to get those data to identify your best end users experiences. Then the second thing that you need to find is your generic market statistics. Let's say top sold devices like the smartphones and tablets. So you need to get those data or statistic. Which mobile devices is selling a lot during last 2 years or during last 2 months? And which devices are upcoming in the industry from such providers? Again, which region currently you are going to do your mobile app testing, that will be your automation or the manual. Such data can be retrieved from your analyst research also. There are so many analyst researcher who will provide you those data. um, so you can just get those information, and based on that also you can select your devices. Then you can change the rate and market dynamics. So as we all see, the mobile market is in the constant change, and your teams need to listen to the trends and changes or adopt them and change the strategy accordingly always. As I mentioned, which are the new devices are going to be launched in any of your country, and you need to identify who is the provider for that. Let's say I can see there is the new a startup organization who is going to launch their new mobile. Do you think we can buy that mobile for either manual or automation testing? Definitely not, because we know if Samsung or Apple they are going to launch any new mobile device in next 15 days or 1 month, then I'll definitely buy that because there will be a huge user base. That is possible. So these are the ways by which you can identify your device selection. Okay, then last point is your device and browser elasticity, or we can say CI and CD. As your mobile app project grows and shrinks based on your SDLC phase, your test automation solution needs to be flexible enough to accommodate necessary changes and provide the needed support to your team, even more critical in cases of distributed teams. So let's say if even though there are some of the product which is already in production, and still if we are following the automation over there, then we need to accommodate any new changes within this product, or I can do my testing within those product. Then continuous integration is the key for those cross team collaboration. Whether you're agile, that means your dev QA teams are using any of the tools, any of the tools, ALM tools like your HP, Microsoft, Jira, or any other OSS, or that is automation frameworks or libraries like Selenium, Robotium, or JUnit tools. Your automation framework solution should be able to connect to these tools and bridge any gaps in the daily continuous workflow. So use what your team knows, and this is the best way to release your mobile app faster without compromising quality. So if I can talk about, or if I can revise some of my points from the mobile app testing, how do we start this mobile app? I said first I'll start with my test scope and coverage. Then I can identify the testing location, that means my localization. Then I said my mobile testing on the real devices or emulator or simulator. Then I can say I will plan my mobile app test. If using automation, I need to identify the tools, I need to identify the technologies and the frameworks and the APIs, everything. Then I can say I need to identify my testing approach. How do we proceed with my approach to complete my this task or my test automation? And I can say what is my device selection is my fourth step. Based on that as well, I can say which are my test coverage. And finally, I can say the device and the browser elasticity, which help me to proceed with these things. So these are some of very important things which I'm going to explain you about. How do you start your mobile automation testing? I'm going to show you in my next session that how to start mobile automation from the scratch. Till that point, thank you so much for joining, guys. If you wanted to follow me, you can just search automated script on LinkedIn, or you can just uh, get or hit on this URL and you'll get uh, my LinkedIn profile over there. And thank you so much for joining today. I'm going to cover the next topic on mobile automation from the scratch again. So, bye.